When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor on this day. This, the 13th anniversary of 9/11. We'll talk about ISIS, the president's speech last night, and the threat to America. Is there a new threat? Your phone calls are important. You want to be a part of this program. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Back in a moment. Back here on the program on this day, on this Thursday, on 9/11, 13 years ago today, of course, we were hit by terrorists in the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and then Flight 93 going down in Pennsylvania, and it changed America forever. Our thoughts and our prayers are with those family members who lost friends, family, acquaintances in the World Trade Center towers in the attacks overall that took place 13 years ago today, almost to the very hour, not quite, but it happened a few hours ago, where the exact 13th anniversary, the planes hit the World Trade Center, then the Pentagon, and of course Flight 93 went down in Pennsylvania. So today we're going to talk about terrorism, and the big thing now is ISIS. Everybody is focused on ISIS, whether or not this is a terror group, a terror threat to the United States here at home or not. So the president made this speech last night regarding ISIS and his new plan to fight ISIS. He says he will take them down, he will hunt them down, he will kill them. Here's basically what the president said to a nationwide television audience last night on network TV.
So tonight, with a new Iraqi government in place and following consultations with allies abroad and Congress at home, I can announce that America will lead a broad coalition to roll back this terrorist threat. Our objective is clear. We will degrade and ultimately destroy ISIL through a comprehensive and sustained counterterrorism strategy. First, we will conduct a systematic campaign of airstrikes against these terrorists. Working with the Iraqi government, we will expand our efforts beyond protecting our own people and humanitarian missions so that we're hitting ISIL targets as Iraqi forces go on offense. Moreover, I've made it clear that we will hunt down terrorists who threaten our country wherever they are. That means I will not hesitate to take action against ISIL in Syria as well as Iraq. This is a core principle of my presidency. If you threaten America, you will find no safe haven. Second, we will increase our support to forces fighting these terrorists on the ground. In June, I deployed several hundred American service members to Iraq to assess how we can best support Iraqi security forces. Now that those teams have completed their work and Iraq has formed a government, we will send an additional 475 service members to Iraq.
So the president saying last night that he wants to degrade and destroy ISIS. It's the speech that I think everybody is waiting for, or was waiting for. The president and maybe Congress and the rest of those politicians that are in charge, the Pentagon included, to have a plan, a strategy as to what to do about this group. Are they a threat or are they not? You're welcome to call in, but live in our studio right now is Dan Payne. He is a terrorism expert. He is also a military expert. He'll talk about ISIS and whether or not this group is in fact a direct threat to our homeland on this, the 13th anniversary of 9/11, when those planes hit on this very day. 436-ME-TV, option 11. We're back with your phone calls and our 9/11 special here on the program in a moment.
Find Untamed Sports on over-the-air channel 13.8.
We're back here on the program. I think everybody remembers where they were on this day 13 years ago. There's no question that time does march on, but we can't forget about what happened. Dan Payne, good to see you again. It's been too long, my friend. You got to come back more often.
I'm ready whenever you want, John. You just let me know.
On this day, I just want to reflect just for a moment. We'll talk about 9/11 throughout the course of the program a little bit, but so where were you on that day on 9/11?
I was actually here in Fresno, and we were getting ready. My wife and I were up, and we hear on the radio that a plane had just hit the World Trade Center, and so I told her, put on the TV. And we put it on and we're watching, and they kept on showing this one plane hitting the World Trade Center. And so my wife went into the bathroom to finish getting ready, and then the second plane hit. And when the first one hit, I kind of suspected, but was thinking more, this must be just an accident, a freak thing, a plane that kind of maybe just kind of lost its course or was having some troubles. But when the second one hit, at that point, I knew at that time this is a threat, a terrorist attack.
Yeah. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead. Hey, caller, go ahead.
Hello.
Turn your set down. Turn your TV down, please.
Yes, I'm basically calling because there's a lot of conspiracy also going on. Can you have the guest explain why did the building number 7 fall by itself without having any kind of an attack, and what was that always covered up? And the headquarters of the FBI was part of also that building. So this way we can basically clear things up, because there is a lot of talk about conspiracy going on. Thank you.
Okay.
Did you get that question?
I got part of it, yeah. He said he wants you to explain why building number 7 went down without any explosives, without it being hit, and part of the conspiracy. You've heard all the conspiracy theories. Maybe address that issue first.
Yeah, there's always a lot of collateral damage that takes place when something like this happens. I am not really a conspiracy theory believer, and I don't believe that there was CIA involvement, or that we planted the bombs or whatever. The contacts that I have that are very independent, many of them senior military people that are still in, they don't believe that as well, and that's where I get a lot of my information from. And when I travel and go to the Pentagon or whatever branch of service that I'm visiting, our conversations are always general. They're never targeting anybody or anything or any theory. It's just as the facts lie, and that's what we discuss. So I don't believe that there was any conspiracy in Building 7, or that we planted the bombs in the World Trade Center.
Do you know how Building 7 came down?
No, that I don't know. In fact, I was talking with your staff earlier. I was in New York a couple of weeks ago, and just to see, where all the collateral damage was, and there's still so much reconstruction going on there. I think some of that some of the things that happen there are just going to constantly be a mystery to us. I don't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of some of it.
I've heard people say, and I'm to a certain extent, I am a conspiracy theory type guy on everything. Just I question everything.
Sure.
Probably the nature of the business, right?
Sure,
You're
absolutely.
questioning everything, right?
That's right. Yeah.
All right. I don't take things for face value, in other words. So So, you know, conspiracy with the JFK thing and maybe 9/11. I don't know what happened. I mean, you hear all these theories, Dan, and how does the general public supposed to, I mean, I guess it's just an individual thing. You're either going to believe it or you're not going to believe the government. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm open. If there was more evidence to support that Building 7 was taken down or that the World Trade Centers were taken down, other than by the aircraft or whatever, you know, again, speaking with your staff earlier, you know, the Malaysia plane that hasn't been found.
Disappeared.
Yeah, I am a firm believer that we're going to see that plane again.
The Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, but I think
it disappeared and then.
Yeah, I think it's my opinion is it landed and it's hidden and it's going to be.
So?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely, yeah.
You think that plane is still here? It
Oh,
didn't
absolutely.
crash?
No, I don't believe it crashed.
What would be the purpose?
To use it again
For
as
a
a
terrorist
weapon?
attack?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Oh yeah.
And so where are those people?
That is the shame of it all.
You think those people were killed?
Most
massacred?
likely,
Really?
yeah.
So getting back to the World Trade Center just for a moment. In fact, let's roll the video. I know we weren't supposed to roll it now, but I want to roll the World Trade Center video from 9/11, 13 years ago today. We're not going to show the buildings going down. There's no point. We all know the buildings came down. This was after the first and then second plane hit right there. Now, I was watching the Today Show at the time on NBC when all this was happening, and when the first plane hit, in fact, you could see the chyron there, the full screen under the World Trade Center towers. That is from NBC. The feed on that day, they were talking about after the first plane hit, it was an accident, and then there you see the second plane hitting. And now they're talking something other than an accident, maybe a terrorist attack. And so the question I have is, how did the jet fuel, I mean, the second plane hitting, it hit almost midway in that building. How did that jet fuel bring those two buildings down without some kind of other detonation? That's what I don't understand. And listen, Dan, I'm a novice, I'm no expert.
The fuel is wet. What explodes are the fumes. When you see a gas tank go up or whatever, it's the fumes that usually explode. The fuel itself just bursts into flames.
But to bring the whole building down, one plane?
There's a lot. The reason why it was so effective was those planes were just filled with fuel. Get prepared to make a long trip, and so all that fuel just went down into that building, ignited, and just weakened the structure from the heat of the fire.
A concrete building, though, it's 110 stories high. Unbelievable. I still can't believe it to this day.
Right. There's a lot that was involved in it. The I-beams in that building, you know, had sprayed on fire retardant on there, and you know, when the plane hit it, a lot of that fire retardant was brittled and just fell off of the I-beams, so they all got heated.
But everything pulverized to dust.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine.
Yeah, it is. But that is an enormous amount of fuel that just it went everywhere inside that building and just ignited.
So you don't believe for a minute it was detonation from either the government or other sources?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Dan Payne is here. We're glad to have him back on 9/11. Hasn't been here for a while. He is a terrorism expert and an expert in the U.S. military. He has a lot of contacts and talks to a lot of people. And your phone calls are important. 436-ME-TV option 11. When we come back, we'll focus on the speech last night from the president and, of course, ISIS.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call solar negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call solar negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
I wasn't there on 9/11, so all I know is what I've seen and what I've heard. We do have a call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Dan Payne, our terrorism expert. How are you?
Fine. I'm the same caller. I have a second part question. John, I'm on with you in the same chapter of being suspicious. The debris of the entire building was swept and taken to India for basically going through the entire, all the debris, and it just makes you suspicious. Why is it all shipped to India? And also underneath the buildings were thousands of pounds or bars of gold that was also not determined what happened or what was the cause of that being disappeared. Yeah. So all these questions of stuff not being cleared is a wondering questions. You wonder, even the building number 7, never anybody investigated. Come on, we fly from here to the moon. We know how to do it, and there is no answer of what happened to that.
Well, the thing is,
puzzling.
Here's the thing. We can only go by what we know. Everything else is speculation. I mean, were the planes marked? Were they unmarked? Were the buildings, did they come tumbling down because of detonation, or was it the jet fuel? I mean, all of this is speculation. It always will be. All we have are the facts in front of us from people that you talk to inside the government, and other people that can share information. I don't know of any other way to get the information, do you?
No, and just to clarify, is it possible that there was some kind of an explosive device in those buildings to work in concert with the planes running into them? That's very possible. I think when I think of the conspiracy theories, I think of, was our CIA involved in bringing those buildings down? Were our government involved? That's where I start to split.
But then you have to go in that different direction, right. Dan. Okay, why?
Why? Yeah.
Okay, if the CIA did it, why did they do it? What was the overall purpose and the goal?
You know, were they trying to get us involved in an Iraq war or a Bin Laden hunt or whatever? You know, I don't put anything past us. I can believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
To this point, I just don't have anything to support that was the case.
I have always said that when I die and I meet God or my Maker, first question I'm going to ask him is, okay, who shot Kennedy?
That's right. There you go. I'll be standing next to you.
Yeah, you'll be standing next to me. You'll be listening with a keen ear. Was O.J. the lone killer?
Right. There you go.
And give me the lowdown on 9/11.
That's right. I'm with you on that. Exactly. 3 for 3, John. All right.
Everything else is secondary.
That's right. Yeah, we have plenty. We have eternity to talk about, but those are going to be the top 3 questions.
And what about the aliens in Roswell?
That's right.
I know about that too.
Been there too. That's quite an interesting place.
Yeah. Let's hope we don't get the answers here for a while. But anyway, let's get back to what the president said last night. I talked about that specifically in the monologue. And I want to roll the videotape of ISIS, because this is a little-known group. Not too many people have heard about ISIS until these 2 journalists were beheaded. We'll talk about that in a minute. But ISIS stands for Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. Roll it, and we'll talk about it, Dan. So what is this group? Who are they, in your opinion?
The group just kind of they emerged. They're part of other groups, more of the hardcore group. Apparently, in their opinion, who they were originally with wasn't doing enough, like Al Qaeda, Taliban. A lot of them came from those organizations. A lot of them, some of them are even Kurds. Some of them are, so they're kind of just a mixture of a lot of different organizations and groups.
Islamic groups.
Correct.
Yeah. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, turn down the TV set, please, and talk into the phone.
Yeah, it's turned down. Question. I'm a Native American, and I was thinking to myself the other day that Catholic time terror landed in America in 1492. And as a terrorism expert, could he defeat what I'm saying? That Catholic time people are terrorists, and that they landed in America in 1492, and they're less than recorded history. And so they act in a conductive manner and fly planes into buildings and devolve children to murder them in war, and so on. As a terrorism
sir,
expert,
hey, let me interrupt you. Hello, let me interrupt you for a minute, okay? You're talking on a speakerphone, and we're having a hard time hearing you. So can you get off speaker, please?
I don't have any other way. I'm way up in the mountains.
Okay.
Okay, but specifically, what's your question? Because we're limited on time.
Well, did Catholic time terrorism land in America in 1492?
You know, good question.
Yeah.
But you know, every organization, every ethnic group, every you know, visitor that comes here for whatever their reason has an agenda, and it's hard to say, you know, if their agenda started way back then to where we are today, you know, with the aggression that is going on and whatever else. So you know, everybody comes to America for a reason, and you know, pretty soon with all the changes America is making, I don't think it's going to be worth their time to come over here anymore, because we're mirroring everybody else's country pretty much. I had a very interesting conversation with a college student from Russia just this last weekend.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how he cannot believe how America has not learned from other countries what not to do. And he says, you know, we talk about America all the time and just tracking your demise. And it's like a self-inflicted wound, he says.
We're going on a downhill trend like this.
Absolutely.
Backwards almost. Okay.
That's right.
All right, talking to Dan Payne, we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about ISIS, because I have some more questions about this. And 436-ME-TV option 11. Remember, you're more than welcome to call in. We got an open line. Back in just a moment. Back here on the show on this 13th anniversary of 9/11, when the buildings came down. And don't forget about the Pentagon 2 and Flight 93, all those courageous people who died, and just the courage on those, for those people that stormed the cockpit on Flight 93. Just, you know, to this day, I've seen, I mean, Netflix, I have Netflix, and I've watched special after special after special on Flight 93 and what they did on that day. Just simply amazing. You never know what you're going to do unless you're faced with that situation.
Absolutely. I can tell you that from experience, being in combat and hearing my Marines talk prior to us getting into a hot situation. And then when it's hot, you know, the guys who talked very aggressive, and this is what I'm going to do, were sometimes the guys that I couldn't depend on, and the guy who was very quiet and never spoke out and said, you know, were the ones I could depend on. So,
but you know, Dan, when they stormed the cockpit, they knew they were dead.
Absolutely.
They knew they were walking in to die.
That's right.
Because they were going to take that plane into the ground.
Right. Their mission was to divert it from causing a greater wrong. So that was their mission, was we're not going to allow these guys to do.
It's almost like comparing it to the World Trade Center, when many of those people had a choice: stay in the building and burn, or leap to your death.
That's right.
And many of them did.
That's right.
Terrible choice.
It is.
Awful.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awful. Hey, let's roll that videotape of ISIS one more time because, you know, it's a vicious, it's a brutal group. They terrorize, they torture, they murder. They have murdered thousands of people. They intimidate those who oppose them with beheadings, forced amputations, mass killings. ISIS, as we know, Dan, controls a part of Syria, a part of Iraq. They're kind of descendants from Al-Qaeda. But let me ask you a question. Why should I care about ISIS? Give me one reason.
Because I believe, and my beliefs are supported, that there are some here in the United States already. So,
do you know that from contacts and people that you
yes.
stay in touch with?
Yes.
Because I've heard and read on several websites that there are terror cells, offshoots of ISIS crossing the border into Texas. Now, is that a falsehood or is that true?
That's
is that
absolutely true? Yeah, absolutely.
How are they getting here?
You know, I last weekend I was speaking to a Homeland Customs person, and they're up in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, and I was asking this person, I said, you know, in Fresno, when we talk about illegals coming into the United States, everybody right away, you know, is thinking Mexicans. I said, and what is your deal up there? And she said, it isn't Mexicans, but we have the same problem with illegals coming in all the time, and it's other countries that are coming in. But she was talking about also that.
Caller, hang on a second.
That all these people that are coming in, a lot of them are terrorists, known terrorists, are on watch lists. So some of them are sneaking by and some of them are getting caught.
Caller, are you there? Hello.
Yeah, I was just listening to the other callers, and if you listen to all these theories, there's thousands and millions of theories out there, I think their brownies are a little too strong. And I've been thinking quite a while that we're in a state of reverse evolution in the United States, and that's probably maybe some of the cause. You can't listen to stuff like that. You can't get any real intelligent thoughts from people like that. Thank you.
Okay.
You know, that can be debated. Some of the most heinous crimes that have been solved were solved because of conspiracy theorists and people making comments, and it triggered a thought and a process, and you know, boom, you know, the crime was solved. Although I'm not a conspiracy type guy, I do listen, and I try to prove either way. I don't jump on that bandwagon right away.
Let me throw a quote at you that I read in the New York Times yesterday.
Sure.
You know the New York Times,
yes.
right? Okay. I don't know how credible this is, but it said that Daniel Benjamin, I don't know if you know this guy, he's a former State Department top counterterrorism advisor to the White House, the Pentagon, all these sources. He told the New York Times that he thinks the ISIS threat is a farce.
Really?
This is coming. Daniel Benjamin, right there, the former. Now, how do you respond when you see something like that from this guy? I mean,
that's the first I've heard of that from a person of his caliber or his stated caliber. But it is a serious threat. It is in the U.S. I am very, very cautious on how the U.S. should treat this situation.
How
ISIS,
so?
well, because ISIS formed because Al-Qaeda, Taliban, all these other organizations weren't aggressive enough.
They were kind of breaking off a little bit, right?
And these guys are saying, we got to get back to, you know, instilling fear in people and letting them know that we mean business and we're real. These guys are not people to be toyed with. They're not making demands like the Taliban or Al-Qaeda was when they were beheading people. These guys are just doing it. They're not saying, give us this and we'll let this guy go, or, you know, do this and we'll let this guy go. They're going to behead these people. Look at the children, what's happening to them. Look at the women, what's happening to them.
Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes. Hello, John. We're talking about terrorism, and we're talking about people coming through the borders. There's a organization called the Southern Poverty Law Center. You can go online and check with them. In 2012, they counted 1,007 active hate groups, which are basically white supremacists, the Aryan Brotherhood, many several neo-Nazi groups. These are in our country right now, working against us. Possibly they're working with these other people as well to let them in, because what they want to do is destroy the federal government. Okay. They want to destroy anybody who is not blue-eyed, white, blonde hair, their version of Christian, whatever that is, because God does not want people killing each other like this. And to go back to the roots of terrorism, the first recorded war, if you've ever read the Bhagavad Gita, it's from India, and it's from the longest epic poem, the Mahabharata, if I pronounced that right. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But this basically,
let me ask you something.
It's a scripture, and it's about 6,000 years old.
No, let me keep her up there. Let me interrupt you a second. What's your specific question to Dan?
My specific question to Dan is with 1,007 active hate groups, I'm talking Nazis, Aryan Brotherhood, they're like a coalition. Should not we be paying more attention to those that are already in our country?
Okay,
stockpiling fertilizer and so forth, than people sneaking over the border?
Good question. The answer to that is we already are. We have a lot of the Aryan Brotherhood and a lot of the supremacy groups. I mean, you can go online and see who are some of the considered terrorist groups. The KKK is in there. The Aryan group is in there. There's a lot of groups in there that are on watch lists. I was speaking with your staff earlier today. We have over 400,000 exchange students in the United States. Over 56,000, it was either 56,000 or 58,000, are unaccounted for. We don't even know where they're at.
58,000.
We don't even know where they're at. We've lost contact with them. They're still here, but we don't know where they're at.
Many of those 58,000 are frauds? They're not real exchange students? They're actually
oh yeah,
for
absolutely,
something else?
Yeah. 9,000 are from Iran and other Middle East countries. 6,000 of them are on our watch list. Why are they even in this country if they're on a watch list? You know, we have an issue with the borders. You look at what Britain is doing with their border patrol. Police officers can confiscate somebody's passport if they have reasonable cause. They said, we'll duke it out in court later, but in the meantime, you're not going anywheres. You know, and we have this open door policy here just about. I mean, we talk about secured borders, and we talk about border patrol and using the National Guard, and heck, the last time we used the National Guard, it was using the National Guard to calm down the border guys to not be so aggressive at the border. And that we do have an issue with illegals coming into this country, whatever their cause is. Some of them are from Central America, South America, Mexico, but I think a lot of people at the same time are terrorists disguised as Mexicans coming into the country. And I think one of your staff members was talking about that this morning as well. It's easy to pass as a Mexican coming across the border. The skin colors are a lot. The facial features are a lot. Absolutely.
Easily, huh?
Absolutely.
I could pass for an Iranian.
Yes, you could.
Or somebody from the Middle East.
I'm going to have you checked out,
You're going to check. You do a background check.
That's right.
check. 436 Me TV, option 11. Am I legal? Have I been here long enough to qualify? Anyway, you're welcome to call in. Got an open line talking about terrorism and, of course, the 13th anniversary of 9/11 and more on the president's speech. I want to ask Dan specifically about what he said to do about ISIS. Back in a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Tune in to Heartland for the best in true country music. Relive vintage specials, one-of-a-kind concerts, and country music's earliest videos. Heartland is the heart of country, the only place where you can find country music, country stars, and country lifestyles 24/7. Heartland, the heart of country.
Now on channel 13.2.
Back here on the program, I have an open line, 436 MeTV option 11. I want to get back to ISIS just for a minute. They, you know, this guy, Benjamin, this former State Department counterterrorism guy, he also said, you know, ISIS isn't like Al-Qaeda. They don't have cells in Europe or the United States or Southeast Asia. You disagree with that. You think we have cells from ISIS here now?
Yes, absolutely.
Anywhere other than Texas, do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Where in the country?
Oh, they're scattered. They're scattered out. There's some.
Do we know about them?
Yeah, we do. They're
Why
on a
can't
watch
we get
list.
rid of them?
It's not that easy,
Arrest
and
them.
sometimes it's better to keep an eye on them and not let them know that you know they're there, type thing.
And ISIS, just by these videos that they put up of these beheadings and their propaganda and their message, is it inspiring, because of what's going on in this country, is it inspiring Americans who are dissatisfied and angry at this country to join a group like ISIS?
And there is a lot of people there. I mean, we know of Swedes that are involved in
joining.
ISIS. Yeah. You know, so there's, and it's for various reasons. And that's another reason why we just don't arrest them, because how serious are they? I mean, it's, if you just want to say that you're a part of a group, and there's a lot of people who find pleasure in saying that they're part of an organization that is well known or feared or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so they're being watched. We do have, you know, groups that we know of, and they are being watched.
All right, caller, you're on the air with Dan Payne. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. I was told yesterday that they had some people down at the water tower parking lot from ISIS that were stopped by our local police department, questioned and released. Is there any truth to this?
It's possible. Again, just because they're part of a group or say they're part of a group, it does not give us the grounds to arrest them. It does give us cause to monitor what they're doing, but we can't just arrest them for saying that they're part of a group.
Okay, thank you.
So there was some people down there saying that we're part of ISIS?
That I can't confirm. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, thank you very much. So let me get back to the terrorist cells that are here from ISIS. How do they pose a threat to us?
If they ever get the word, now's the time, do what you're supposed to do or whatever, that's when it's going to become an issue for us.
When they get the word from Syria or Iraq or wherever else,
yeah, wherever
do your dirty deed.
Right.
Now is the time.
Correct.
Okay, and so that's what we have to worry about.
Correct.
All right. President Obama criticized for a very long time for, I think, the lack of intervention in Syria. And last night's speech, a lot of people were saying, okay, it's almost like a Johnny-come-lately thing.
Right.
You're the one that kind of created this mess by your lack of action.
Correct.
Now you want to take action to try to rectify something that you were responsible for.
Correct.
Do you see it that way?
I do and I don't. I don't always agree with President Obama. I think it's a very difficult position that he's in. But I think he has the tendency to want to do the ostrich deal where he buries his head in the sand and hopes that the problem kind of goes away or solves itself.
Yeah.
And I think a month or 2 months ago when this first came up and the decision was, you know, do we aid the moderates there and aid them with weapons and technologies so that they can fight the radicals there in Syria?
But
And
then you're aiding and abetting the Assad regime, which a year ago at this time he was talking about bombing.
Right.
So now we're going to arm the same people that we were going to bomb.
So he didn't.
So
he didn't based on that.
Yeah.
Right.
So those the opposition could fight ISIS.
Right. So what ends up happening is the radicals win. So now we're going to be involved in this thing anyway. I think it was a roll of the dice, and he was hoping that maybe that the moderates would kind of win, and we wouldn't have had to have gotten involved.
And we all know the brutality of the Assad regime. There's been a civil war going on there for 3 years.
Correct.
200,000 people have died in that civil war. Question is, should we have gotten involved? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? And what could we have done?
Yeah.
You know, the tragedy is out of that over 200,000 people that have been killed, you know, that they're saying that their statistics are that over half of them were innocent civilians, and that you know is a tragedy. Any loss of life is a tragedy, but when it's innocent civilians, that makes it even worse. But how far is America supposed to go on
well, that's
these
the question. That's always the debate. How far do we go on anything?
Right.
And he said last night 475 additional U.S. troops, not on the ground to fight, but to train opposition leaders so they could fight ISIS. And even Saudi Arabia is stepping up because they said, well, okay, we can open up some training bases here. You can train the opposition. And how do you feel about that? A good or a bad move?
When he first sent the first 300 over there, I was talking with the SEAL teams, and they were part of the teams that were going. The particular team that I talked to, this was their 12th mission that they had to go back down there again.
Is there a risk to our men doing that?
Oh, absolutely. But a lot of times, John, these are guys that have been there, done that. They've walked with the people that live there.
Yeah.
They know the senior military people and leaders there. And a lot of times their job is to talk these guys into stepping up and doing what they need to do. The Iraqis kind of threw in the towel. You know, we got them.
They gave up, didn't they?
They did.
Because they didn't have enough firepower or strength. Or man, you had people just on the front lines just giving up their weapons. Okay, I quit.
Right. You know,
because why?
Well, one,
overwhelmed.
They were overwhelmed. Two, they didn't really believe in their cause enough to hang in there and fight. Three, they don't want to be there. They would rather us or the Brits or France or whoever fight the fight for them. And we can't continue to do that. We have to say enough is enough.
We can't stay there indefinitely.
No, we can't.
Yeah. So
and that's normally the cause or one of the main concerns that I have. Even when Bush first committed us to Iraq and Afghanistan, we didn't have an exit strategy. And when I talked to the Pentagon a few months ago, when we were going to send the 300 guys in there, they were saying the same thing. Nobody from the administration has asked us what our opinion is or how we should do this. We have no idea what we're going to do. And even worse, we have no idea what our exit strategy is and what our mission is.
Amazing. Amazing. And this is our government at its best.
Yeah. If you saw the picture of President Obama sitting in his room with all his advisors, there's only 2 uniformed guys in there. The rest of them are all in suits.
Why?
My question exactly.
Why? Why weren't there more military personnel in that security meeting?
I'm not going to say which branch of service I spoke to yesterday,
That's
but
fine.
I called a branch of service yesterday, because I was going to do your show and I wanted up-to-date information. And the guy literally, he was a general, and he literally says, I give up. I can't even answer your question. I have no idea what's going on, what we're supposed to do.
Because they're being left in the dark by the administration.
Yeah, they're out of the loop. He says, we just gave up. We just said, I guess we'll get our marching orders when we get our marching orders, and we'll just try to connect the dots and make it work.
Wow. Dan Payne is here, terrorism expert, has the contacts in D.C. and in the Pentagon. He speaks to these people all the time. He's in the know. Back with your phone calls in our program in a moment.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call Solar Negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call Solar Negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
Back here with Dan Payne, a terrorism expert. Anything else that you can tell us that your experts said over in Washington via telephone yesterday?
The big thing that they're saying is that the president is sincere when he's saying that he doesn't want combat from our guys.
Boots on the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
Boots on the ground doesn't mean combat.
Yeah.
Although a lot of the senior generals are saying, if you can see ISIS and you can do a bombing run, that's one thing. But the chances of always seeing them and having a successful bombing run is slim to nil. You can only do so much from the air. The actual victory in this is going to be boots on the ground, face to face. So whose bullets are going to create the situation? Is it us? Is it Britain? Is these guys, Britain and France and a lot of these other countries are already saying, we're not going to do that. We'll lend air support, but when you talk about air support, some of them are talking about just doing mid-air refuelings, providing tankers, mid-air tanker fuel.
Yeah.
They're not talking about
putting their kids on the ground.
That's
there.
right.
Yeah.
Or jets dropping bombs.
So Dan, that leads into my next segment here, and that is, can we defeat ISIS with airstrikes only? Because the strategy is he wants to build this coalition with Britain and France and other countries, Saudi Arabia, to defeat this group, including the opposition in Syria. Can they do it with airstrikes alone? Is this going to take ISIS out?
No. I personally believe, and others believe as well as I do.
So this strategy is not going to work?
No. No, not with just airstrikes.
So why are we doing it?
Because that's the way we do business lately. We just don't have a well-executed plan.
Can you compare this to the first Gulf War, when President Bush decided not to go into Iraq, just with airstrikes?
Well, the problem with the issue with the Gulf War was we went in not only as the U.S., but we went in with the UN, and the agreement was our mission was just to remove Iraq from Kuwait. So had they stayed in Kuwait and continued doing what they were doing, we could have gone into Iraq and done damage to Iraq while they were still in Kuwait.
Is this kind of the same thing?
It is, but it's expanded now. We know ISIS is in the U.S. We know ISIS is in Britain. We know ISIS is in different areas. We know they're radical. We know they're more committed than some of these other groups were. So an airstrike, unless you can get every one of them, it's not going to do the job.
Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am. My question is, I understand you're saying airstrikes are not going to do totally the whole job. The question I have is, why is it limited now on the airstrikes? That's my question.
Because we don't always have 100% say-so. When the president makes a speech like he did last night, it's influenced by discussions he's had with other countries, and if you go overboard, you start losing alliances with other countries that say, hey, I don't mind you doing airstrikes, but I don't want you to go in there and just annihilate and ruin the country or do whatever. So there's always price tags that go along with any decisions that are being made. Right.
Any action has a price tag. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question that, on television it's easy to criticize, but the thing is, he's right. How are you going to get rid of the terrorists for any country, okay? What they're trying to do is get us all upset and then force us to do something that we're not supposed to be doing. Like, we're not going to put the patrols on the ground, okay? That's number one. Airstrike's not going to do it like he says, okay? That would never happen because, they can go in and out or whatever. But my question is this. With all these advisors that they have in the office with the president, why not just get advisors from the military branch and let them tell the president, this is what we should do, okay? Because the president has the last say-so, okay? But it's not really him. It's just his advisors, and it's not military advisors that should be, informed about, hey, what should we do? The president should just tell them, okay, what should we do? Okay, they've been in combat and this and that. The president hasn't. No president has gone into military, with the exception of a few. But at the same time, all we're doing is aggravating them more to continue to do all this bombing. They know they're not going to put any, foot patrol or soldiers on the ground, and what gets me upset sometimes, and I voted for Obama, but like he says too, he'll put his head on the sand and kind of look the other way, and hopefully he'll, everything will take care of itself. But it doesn't work that way.
Caller, thank you.
So I just want to ask him, why do they need advisors?
Okay.
Okay, that's a good question. We have kind of drifted away more and more each generation of elected officials that have prior military experience. And, a lot of these guys are school-taught, book-smart about history, wars, and they analyze and then they get themselves into the positions of being consultants or advisors. And, last night after the president's speech, there were so many generals and officers that spoke afterwards and criticized and either agreed or criticized with the president's speech and what his plan was. And again, they made the same comment. Why are we not being asked our opinion, our advice? We've been there, done that. That's what we do for a living. I remember years ago when I came back from Gulf War, I was walking into Fashion Fair Mall, and there was a news reporter standing there, and she stops me and said, "You look like you're in the military." And I said, "Yes, I am." And she asked me questions about the military and all, and I responded to her, and I said, she was saying how she disagreed with things in the military, what was going on, and I said, that's why we're in the military, so you can have that opinion. I said, but let me tell you something. I don't go into Mervyn's and tell them how they should, stack their sweaters and where their slacks should be, and I don't go into Vaughn's and tell them where, to put their vegetables and their fruits or whatever. I said, because that's not my job. I don't know that. I said, the same thing is with all these people that are criticizing for what we did in the Gulf War and the outcome. Unless you wear the uniform, and so there's a lot of relevance and a lot of credence to people who have worn the uniform and know what to say, what to do, been there, done that. And those people, unfortunately, are not being asked how to handle this situation.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Caller, make it quick, please. A quick question. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Okay, I do not have military experience other than the fact that my brother was in the Marines during the 70s, He was in intelligence. He scored, if you understand, 99 percentile in his group. That meant he was number one.
Sure.
He was placed in a position. He was fluent in several languages for interrogation. He was privy to things that were going on that he never was able to speak to us about, that it totally changed him in a dramatic fashion. And this was back in the 70s when we were on the brink of God knows what.
Okay.
I have not seen my brother since 1980
I'm going to have
because
to...
of the effect that this
Ma'am?
has. And I have one comment to make.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Quickly. Turn it up. You're going to have
People keep finding better ways to kill each other, and the reason why they want to go on with bombs is because people do not want to have to look another human being in the eye while they're stabbing them or doing whatever to them like they used to. Look back in history. We've been doing this a long time. Look at the torture chambers in Europe.
All right.
Look at like the rack and
Marcus,
those
thank
things.
Let me answer that. There's, I don't believe that the issue is people don't want to see somebody in the eye. I think we're trying to get, excuse the phrase, more bang for our buck. If we can drop a bomb and take out 170 people instead of having to spend all night long trying to get into a firefight and take out 170 people, we're going to drop a bomb.
Listen, somebody on Facebook last night said, why should we go into war just because of two journalists were beheaded? Let's put the two photos up of James Foley and Steve Sotloff. These are brave young men and women that serve over there in the military, but let me tell you something. Brave young men and women that work in the media, that go over there to the war zones like the Middle East and cover these situations so you and I are more informed about what's going on. Yes, they went over there voluntarily, but what's the message ISIS is trying to send to us with these beheadings? That's the question.
First of all, you said it. They weren't military people. They were journalists. What threat did they pose to ISIS? What, had they worn a uniform, have they ever fired a shot at ISIS?
They're
No.
pawns in a war?
Exactly. And they got beheaded. So if ISIS, their comment, their statement is, anybody that we can get our hands on is eligible to be beheaded. You don't have to wear a uniform. You just have to be outside of our
But
group.
they're just as much a hero as the guy in
Oh,
the
absolutely.
military uniform because they're putting and they don't have a weapon.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
So, and they're trying to inform us of what's going on.
Right.
So ISIS is using them as pawns, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
And trying to stir, they're trying
to instill fear into us?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. What are your guys saying? We got 30 seconds. What's your guy in the Pentagon saying about ISIS? Can we get rid of them? Are we going to get rid of them? Is this going to be a long battle? What?
There's a saying that the military uses: peace through superior firepower. If we can establish that they're not going to get over on us, that we are going to continue to retaliate, they take out one of ours, we take out 100 of theirs. If they realize, look, we're going to leave the United States alone, we're just going to go battle it out with whoever, Saudi or whoever they're going to do, just leave us alone. Because if you mess with the bull, you're going to get the horn type thing. That's what we're trying to say.
I'd love to have you back, Dan.
Absolutely,
I don't know
John.
what your schedule is,
Yeah.
but man, you're great.
I'd
Great
love to come
guest.
back. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, very informative. Dan Payne, a terrorism expert, a man who served in the military and is also a military expert, giving his insight today on ISIS and 9/11. Appreciate your time, Dan, and we'll be back tomorrow with another show of Connect with Me. Have a great day.